Hello, welcome to another episode of the Family Budget Fisherman. My name is Malik Harrington. And just to remind you, this is a new channel on YouTube and other platforms in the near future. The goal of this channel, the goal of this show is to show you how to enjoy the sport of fishing overall, multi-species fishing, without breaking the bank. And so to that end, you'll know that my style is a little bit more unique than others. Behind me is my rod and reel arsenal, which is what we're going to be talking about today. My rod and reel arsenal consists of 11 rods, reels, and the accessories that go along with them. And I'm going to be showing you how I can use the same rod to go after catfish as I could go after bluegill. I can use the same rod for crappie and go after striper. I can use the same rod for bass and go after trout. Only thing that matters is what I'm using to go after that particular species. So you'll see the uniqueness. There's another particular uniqueness about my rod and reel arsenal that you'll probably catch on really fast, but you just have to kind of take a look at it and see. Let's begin. To my left here, which will be your right, are my 5 finesse rods. To my right and your left are my 6. Well, I have 3 rods that are designed primarily for crappie and 3 rods that are designed for other special uses. And we'll talk about those. So let me go back over here to my finesse rods. These finesse rods I can use to catch all the species of fishing that I normally catch. Striped bass, largemouth bass, spotted bass. I did say smallmouth bass, largemouth bass. Catfish, bluegill, shell crackers, redfish, red ears. I can also catch trout and salmon. Obviously crappie, both black crappie and white crappie. I think I got about every one of them. Those are most of the species that I fish for here in the Sacramento region. And all of these rods, I could pick any one of these and go for any one of those species of fish. Now, I do have specific designs and specific setups, but their only setup is for the type of lure that I'll be using, the type of bait I'll be using, not based upon how they are set up. So let me start off here. And I'm going to start here for a particular reason, and you'll notice it a little bit momentarily. This here is my worm rod. Now, like I said, I can fish for any kind of fish. I can use this for any of the top species of fish that I've shared with you a few moments ago. But this is primarily set up for my worms. So any worm that I have in my arsenal that's over 4 inches or 4 inches and up is what I'm going to be using this for. And that will go all the way up to 9 inches, 10 inches, what have you. This is it's my shaky head Senko rod, and it's made by Wright & McGill Skeet Reese. This is the Skeet Reese model, professional series. And it is paired with my Lew's Speed Spin 6:2-to-1 gear ratio, 14-pound drag spinning reel. And it is a really good setup. I love this setup. I've caught a lot of fish on this setup. I started with this in 2018, and I'm carrying it forward into 2019. It's a great rod setup. My next one is one of I like to call a pair of paternal twins. This is my Defy series black, made by 13 Fishing. As you can see there, it says 13 Fishing there. So 13 Fishing made this rod. This is the medium fast. So this is the medium fast 7'1" rod, and it is also paired with the same reel that the skeet reef reel is paired with, and that is the Lew's Speed Spin 6.2 to 1 gear ratio 14-pound drag system. This is a great reel combination, rod and reel combination. I love it. I primarily use this for throwing the smaller tubes, anything in terms of weight between 1/8 ounce and 1/2 ounce, and lengths of the lure between 1.5 or 2 inches, 1.5, all the way up to 3.5. Sometimes 3 3/4, depending on what I have here. And it depends on the lightness of it. And this is also where I throw some of my small top waters. So if I'm going to throw a small popper, if I'm going to throw a small buzz bait, any one of the smaller top water plugs, one of those where you kind of have to eyeball it to know this is a small one and this is a large one, not necessarily just based on weight. This is a great rod and reel combination. And here is his big twin. This is also a Lew's 13 Fishing Defy Series black rod, 7'1". And the only difference between the one I just showed you and this one is that this is a medium heavy where the other one is a medium. So with this, I'm going to be throwing the 3.5, 4-inch longer tubes, longer baits. I can throw spinner baits on here for some reaction. I can throw some of the larger top water plugs. I throw my jerk baits on here most of the time. Great rod. And again, it's paired with the same reel, the Lew's Speed Spin reel. Great combination there. This one here is 13 Fishing's Omen series. This is the Omen 2 Black Series, and this is a 7'1" rod, just the same. But I have this paired with a Fluger Summit XT. These were being discounted real good at Bass Pro Shops, and I decided to pick up a couple of them. I had never used them before, but I'll tell you, since having bought them, my only criticism of these reels is that I don't have more than the 2 that I bought. These are great reels, really, really good reels. And so that's the rod and reel setup for this. I throw a lot of my lighter plugs. As you can see, I have interestingly enough, I have a Ned Rig hook on here made by Berkeley. And I have on it a jig skirt used for crappie fishing. And that's simply because when I go crappie fishing, I crappie fish for the big ones, 2.5, 3-pounders. That's what you would have bass equipment for that. But I use this instead. So this is sort of my go-to. This is on the first string of rods and reels that I would use in order to target and eventually catch those fish. Excuse me. Here is the point guard of my entire system. This is a Zodius. It says 270, meaning it's a 7-foot rod. And this is an overall just beautiful rod. I mean, it's an absolutely beautiful rod. And I would encourage you, if you can afford one, to buy one. And I'll tell you a little bit more about it. This is made by Shimano, and this is their medium. Yeah, this is their medium rod, and it is also paired with the Lew's Speed Spin 6.2 to 1 gear ratio. It even looks good with it. Rod and reel are really light. This is a carbon fiber. I think this is a carbon fiber reel, which is really good. And like I said, this is my first string universal rod. I will throw everything that I just described to you on for the first 4. I will throw it all on here. The reason why I have the overlap that I have is a lot of times I like to tie multiple baits. And so in tying the multiple baits, I get different reactions depending on, little slight different reactions based on the rod. But this right here, this is my first string when I'm going out to look to see what the water's doing. You'll usually see me with this in my hand. Excuse me. Now, but let me start with this in terms of price. This rod costs $200. It's $199.99 just about anywhere you go. And this reel, I got these reels. Well, the reels retail for about $50. Okay, and you may say, well, wait a minute, you got a $200 rod with a $50 reel. Trust me, the technology used to put this reel together is absolutely fantastic and can hang with this rod. So this setup would normally be a $250 setup, but I was able to work out some deals and arrangements, and I managed to get this rod for about $75, down from $199, and this reel for $25. So we're talking about a $100 setup, for a $250 worth of rod and reel, and I got it for $100 even. I actually have 4 of these, so I got a really good deal. Trust me when I tell you, I got a really good deal. Same thing with this Omen. This rod retails for $120. The reel retails for $70. So you're talking about $190. But I have to tell you, I did not spend $120. I spent exactly $58 for this rod, and I spent $24 for the reel. So 58 plus 24. Let's see, there's the clock, right? I mean, there's a calculator. 58 plus, 25 is 83. So for $190, I got this for $83 in total. That is a really, really good deal for this, okay? For this, and I'm only going to use one rod to describe them both because I did both the same, whether it's the medium heavy on the Black Defy series or the medium. This rod cost me, it's a $60 rod. I ended up picking up this rod for about $30, and the reel I got for $25. So for $55, I was able to secure a rod and reel combination, so 50 plus 60, $110, and I got the total for $55. What a deal, huh? What a deal. And that applies again to the medium as well. Very similarly, you have this one here. I don't know why that doesn't balance the way it should. There we go. So you have this one here, this Skeet Reese model. So you have this rod, which retails for $80. I picked up this rod because of the way I worked my discounts. I got this rod actually for $20, and I got the reel for $25. So that's a $45 combo for what could have been $80 plus $50, $130 with the rod. I actually have 5 of these rods. And I might add, on the Omen series, I think I said I have 2 of those Omens. And the Defy, I got 3 of each of these models. I was able to get some really good deals. Okay. Now on this side here, I'm going to, these are my 2 crappie rods. Now, I still like my ugly sticks. No matter what is said about the ugly sticks, I've been with the ugly sticks since the original version, the classic. And I'll show you, I have the classic. I'm gonna go off camera for a bit just to show you that I have the classic. And then I have even my daughter's rods. Okay. So just to show you, I have been with ugly stick a long time. Here is the close to the very first model. That was the classic. Everybody remembers the Ugly Stick Classic. Been with them for a while. This rod is 35 years old, just so that you know, okay? This rod here is a 5-foot version, 5-foot version. This one is 35 years old. I got these at the same time. This is another classic. Then when they went from the classic to the Ugly Stick Light, they sold them at around the same time, the Ugly Stick Light. And I love this rod. I got this rod, and I have about 4 or 5 of these left. I've had this rod maybe about 2003, and this is 2019. So what is it? 16 years. Okay. And then I bought my daughters the ladies' Ugly Stick, as you can see there. Oh yeah. And then when the Light series was updated, they updated it from the Light to something called the Elite series, which is what I throw now. I throw this. This is my robust crappie rod, and this is my point guard for crappie. Now, like I said, I can catch all the other stuff for crappie, but this is my point guard for crappie, and I'll tell you about it a little bit later, why it is. This is a 7-foot medium light Ugly Stick, and this is a custom reel that I had built for me, and it was very good price. The rod, it retails for $50, and I got it for $35. And then I got, I think, 3 or 4 of these here. But, so, and this is if I didn't mention it already, this is the 7'6". This is my, like I said, this is my 7'6". Oh, and I might also add, I like to throw my lighter rods, my lighter equipment, so my 1/32, my 1/16, I prefer to throw them on the 7'6" rather than what I'm getting ready to show you now, which is my 7-foot even Ugly Stick Elite. Here we go. This one I prefer to throw my 3/16 and 1/8. This is a second crappie rod. Okay, primary forage fish. I primarily fish for crappie with this, but like I said, I can bring in some big bass with this and not have to struggle. And I'll tell you why in a few moments. And this is the medium light 7-footed series as well. Then I have the 12-foot Shakespeare Crappie Hunter. As you can see, it's in 2 parts here. And it's that way on purpose. I mean, you don't want to carry around a 12-foot rod if you don't have to in one piece. So this, and it fits well on the boat that way, to break it down. Now, obviously, you don't want to be catching striped bass with this, but I have to tell you, I have caught one. It was a shaker, 22 inches, but nevertheless, I've caught one. But I would discourage anyone from using this rod here to go after crappie. Mostly what I go after with this right here is I go after crappie, I go after bluegill, red ear, shell crackers, etc. I would not want for you to go after big catfish, striped bass, big salmon with this rod. Now, you can get them in, but it'll be a much more aggressive experience, not on your behalf, if you chose to go after those fish that way. Now, my last 3 are also built in kind of a unique way. I'm going to move some of my legacy rods out of the way. Are built for a particular reason. And so just to show you, this is a 7'6" medium light. Sound familiar? I can use the same rod for my crappie rod, which I've already described here. Has a different reel. This is the Daiwa 2500 XIA reel. And I love this reel. This is I think it's a 5:2-to-1 gear ratio, 9 ball bearings in there, 10 ball bearings in there. Matter of fact, it's right here. 10 ball bearings in the box. And I throw mostly my reaction baits on here. So crankbaits, spinner baits, chatter baits, anything that has a reaction, I throw. Some of my bigger jerk baits, bigger topwater baits from time to time. So I throw them on using this, spy baits, etc. And I have a good time catching a lot of good fish with this rod and reel. As you know, this comes in at $50 here for this. The reel actually comes in at $55. I ended up picking these up some years ago. I got 10 of these from Big Five Sporting Goods. I ended up spending about $23 for this, and I spent about $35 for the rod. So 25 plus 35 equals. So for $60, I got a setup, which was 50 plus 55 was $105. It's not a bad deal. This is an ugly stick rod. This is an inshore rod, and it's primarily used for medium light saltwater fishing. But I've learned in this particular brand here, I prefer this to some of the other heavier action freshwater rods for this technique, for throwing frogs, and that's submersed for underwater frogs, for throwing heavier jigs, for throwing all kinds of little things, for throwing big heavy baits, swim baits and stuff like that. I use this rod and reel combination. As you can see, that dial was on there, and this is a 7-foot medium light action, but this is a saltwater action, so it translates into almost a heavy for freshwater fishing. Very, very good rod. This was a $60 rod, $23 reel. I ended up paying $40 for that, so $63 for what was much more expensive. I love that rod reel combination. And then here's my last one in terms of the combinations. This I primarily use for pitching and flipping. This is a 7'6" medium action inshore select ugly stick elite. This right here, I can dredge fish out of some really, really heavy cover. And I mean truly dredge them out. For pitching and flipping my heavy baits primarily, or getting into heavy cover, I love using this rod. I can cast heavy baits out far. I can do that kind of stuff. I absolutely love it. So this will round out my rod and reel arsenal, but I'm still not finished in telling you how my multi-species fishing is raised a bit when it comes to this. Just give me a few more minutes and I'm going to share it with you. I did forget to mention to you that in my crappie hunter, my reels are made by Akuma. Now you may say, well, wow, you got an Akuma that's inside of a plastic container and not in this fancy smancy box right here. Well, just so that you know, that still has the box top on there. That's a $54 reel. This Akuma is $60. Okay, $60 reel. Very good reel. It just happens to be packaged that way. It's a 2025 series, and I love it. Now, what makes my rod and reel arsenal so effective for multi-species fishing, almost no matter what rod or reel combination rig I use, is because of the fishing lines that I use. And let me reach over here. My equipment is tough enough, but I use, now I'm down to 2, and by mid this year I'll only be down to 1. I have been using the Power Pro Slick. I've been using the Power Pro family of lines for years, and I loved them. I loved every one of them. When they upgraded to slick, I fell in love with the slick. This happens to be a 15-pound test break strength, 4-pound diameter line. I used it for crappie fishing. 4-pound test diameter line. I used it for crappie fishing. And I had with it a fluorocarbon leader of 20 pounds. Now you may wonder, why am I using almost heavy bass equipment for crappie? Because the crappie that I go for, some of those big crappie, they're not out in open water all the time. Although I do use my equipment in open water and I'm very effective with it. What happens is when I get into that thick cover, 4-pound test is not going to do me any good. 6-pound test is not going to do me any good. I cannot, as much as I would like to say my power finesse rod and reel arsenal works out just great in most situations, you got to enhance it. And this is what I've done. By using these combinations, I enhance the fishing quality and quantity in areas that I would normally not be able to use, especially very light tackle. So that's the leader that I use. And I use, it doesn't matter. This is a fluorocarbon leader. This is Trilene's version, and this is Berkeley Vanish version. As you know, they're the same company, so just choose your poison, as we like to say. I have moved all of my fishing lines. I just have this little bit left, but I moved all my fishing lines to fins. I absolutely love this company. I love the technology behind it. This is a 15-pound test diameter line. 15-pound test break strength. The line it's rated at 15 pounds, but the line diameter is 2-pound test as opposed to Slick's 415, as I like to call it. So I can cast a lot further with this. I'm still just as accurate, and I still have the break strength. As a matter of fact, the break strength actual rating on here, they sell it at 15 pounds break strength, but the actual break is at 26 pounds. So just imagine, you even have enough to compromise for your for your knots, so your break strength is not compromised below the 15-pound rating. So check them out. They're real good. I actually have them in the 215, and I have them in the 645. And the 645 is what a lot of my bigger tackle are set with. That 645, 6-pound test diameter, 45-pound test break strength, but the actual break strength is at 61 pounds. I could dredge fish out of some of the heaviest cover with this fishing line. I absolutely love it. The thin diameter allows me to make very long casts, and I enjoy that fishing line. I usually, if I'm not going leader to braid particularly on when I'm using the 645, is I will use 60-pound test monofilament as leader material. Number one is because I want something that's strong, that is compatible with the braid. But number two, I need the abrasion resistance. Oh, and number three, I need the absorption. This still stretches at about 10 to 15% depending on the heat and how long it's been in the water. And I need that shock absorption because, as we all know, braided line is very unforgiving. So if I'm throwing a reaction bait, I have a more limber tip, but I also need to have some shock absorption. And so that's why I use the mono rather than using the fluorocarbon in any bigger lines than the 20-pound test. So that is my rod and reel and rig arsenal. Like I said, I can catch any species of fish with these, and I would encourage you to get out there and fish. Now, you probably have noticed something, what I did not do. I have not shown you a bait cast reel. Yes, that is the uniqueness of my rod and reel arsenal. I do not own a bait cast rod and reel combination. I do own 4 Shimano Corrado rods that are over there. and I may be selling them off. I may be giving them away. I don't know what I'm going to do at this moment, but I have them over there, and I don't plan on using them. It's just not my thing. I can do whatever I need to do with the spinning equipment. I prefer power finesse fishing to strictly power fishing. And for all the advantages that bait casting may have over spinning, even in this day, that is a much larger expansion than what it was when there was a true difference between spinning model rigs and bait casting rigs. I don't need to throw 100 yards most of the time, especially where I fish. 50 yards is even far. But if I can get a good 95 to 99% accurate cast throwing 15 to 30 yards, I've achieved it. I have enough fishing line to fish down 70, 80 feet if I wanted to. I almost never fish that deep. As a matter of fact, I never fish that deep. So most of my equipment is built to go down 30 feet, which is over 90% of the fish that I catch and have caught over all my years. And so I'm very, very comfortable with the spinning rods and reel combination. And besides, I stand out in YouTube because most, particularly bass fishermen, they love to use the bait casting rod and reel combinations. And, to each his own, and I wish them all the best. But this is what I choose to use. So my hope, again, is to help you to take a look at the value of fishing and maximize that value as best that you can so that you can get the best fishing out there that you can have the most enjoyable occasion that you can have. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. And just remember, enjoy as much fishing as you can without breaking your family budget. I'll see you next time.